Why did a ship built in 1,200 days sink in just 2 hours? April 10, 1912, was the day when the world's largest and most expensive ship, the Titanic, was fully prepared for its maiden voyage. The Atlantic Ocean was calm, and there was no sign of an impending storm. The ship had already boarded 1,500 passengers, and millions stood at the dock to witness the historic departure of the Titanic. Neither the passengers nor the millions bidding farewell, nor even the Titanic's crew, knew that 6 critical mistakes had been made during the ship's construction, mistakes that would lead to one of the worst maritime disasters in history. In today's video by Docutainment Video, we will uncover the 6 mistakes that, if avoided, could have made Titanic famous for its success, rather than its tragic sinking. Mistake number 1, excessive speed. At exactly 12 p.m., the Titanic embarked on its maiden voyage. However, mistakes began surfacing immediately. Captain Edward Smith had received strict orders from the ship's owners to reach New York by April 17th at any cost. To maintain the Titanic's reputation, the captain set the ship's speed too high from the start. Every vehicle, machine, or vessel has operational guidelines, including speed limits. However, these were ignored in Titanic's case. Within a short time, the ship left the Southampton port far behind, with only the vast blue ocean in sight. Mistake number 2, ignoring iceberg warnings. 3 days into its journey, Titanic had passed France and Ireland and was continuously heading towards New York. On the evening of April 14, 1912, the ocean was covered in fog, drastically reducing visibility. That same night, another ship, which was just hours ahead of the Titanic, sent multiple wireless warnings about floating icebergs. Experts believe at least 6 warnings were issued, but due to operator negligence, these crucial warnings were ignored. Since the Titanic was a luxurious ship carrying VIP passengers, most of the staff was focused on serving first-class travelers rather than handling warnings seriously. If these warnings had been acknowledged, the entire scenario might have been different. Mistake number 3, lack of binoculars. The Titanic was traveling at high speed, having already missed critical iceberg warnings. However, there was still a chance to avoid disaster since the ship's lookouts were alert and ready to report any hazards. Unfortunately, they lacked an essential tool, binoculars. Yes, the watchmen were alert, but without binoculars, they failed to detect the iceberg from a distance. This was Titanic's 3rd critical mistake. The iceberg was finally spotted when it was only the size of a football field away from the ship, but by then it was too late. Mistake number 4, weak rivets holding the ship together. Large ships frequently encounter icebergs, and most can handle such collisions. Perhaps Captain Smith assumed the Titanic could as well. Upon receiving the iceberg alert, he ordered the engines to stop and tried to change the ship's course. Although he attempted to steer away, the distance was too short, and the iceberg struck the Titanic's center. At this moment, the ship still had a chance of survival, provided its body could withstand the impact. Unfortunately, the rivets holding the Titanic's steel plates together were made of cast iron instead of steel. Since cast iron is softer, the impact caused the rivets to snap, breaching the ship's hull. Mistake number 5, insufficient lifeboats. As water rapidly filled the lower compartments, the ship's crew and passengers became alarmed. Titanic's owner, Joseph Bruce Ismay, was also on board. Despite the flooding, the ship was designed to stay afloat even if 3 floors were filled with water. However, water had already reached the 4th level, meaning the ship was doomed. At this point, an emergency alert was sent via radio, and passengers were to be evacuated using lifeboats. However, here came another fatal mistake. The ship had space for 32 lifeboats, yet only 20 were placed on board. With 1,500 passengers, but only 20 lifeboats, a disaster was inevitable. Mistake number 6, poor lifeboat management. Panic spread as passengers scrambled to board lifeboats. At 12:45 a.m., the first emergency boat was lowered into the ocean. However, yet another mistake occurred. Lifeboats were not filled to capacity. Due to the chaos, boats were launched half-empty, prioritizing first-class passengers. The wealthier travelers were given preference, while many others were left behind. If the boats had been fully loaded, more lives could have been saved. The Titanic was now sinking rapidly. At 2:18 a.m., a short circuit caused the ship's lights to go out completely. Within moments, the ship broke into two pieces and submerged entirely in the freezing Atlantic Ocean. It took only 2 hours and 40 minutes for the mighty Titanic to disappear beneath the waves, claiming the lives of over 1,500 people. The water temperature was -2 degrees Celsius, meaning that even those who made it into the water had almost no chance of survival. At such low temperatures, a human can survive for just 30 minutes before succumbing to hypothermia. Some experts believe the actual death toll was even higher because many passengers had boarded without tickets. Among the survivors, most were women and children. Captain Smith, who had spent his last moments helping passengers, was the last person to jump from the sinking ship. This tragic incident could have been prevented had these 6 fatal mistakes been avoided. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Docutainment Video for more intriguing stories. See you in the next episode.